Now, I don't say this often.
I don't say this often.
Now, I don't say this often. He's going to be a wild card in the league. Welcome back to the Wildcards Podcast. Once again, I'm one of your co-hosts, Coleman Madlin. I'm joined here today with my good friends and fellow co-hosts,
Joshua Sykes
and Brandon Harkey.
It's another week. It's another Friday. It's another great day to get this money. Let's get right into the major news of the week. Starting off with the Saints. The New Orleans Saints reworked Derek Carr's deal. They get $23 million back in cap space, much needed. They're still down, I think, the most in the league. Is that right, guys? I think they have the worst salary situation.
Yeah, they were down like negative 83 million, 82 million.
Yeah.
Probably still. I think the next team is like 57.
Yeah. So they're doing pretty terrible is all we got to say. I mean, it was kind of like a shock to a lot of people when they saw the Derek Carr deal that formulated last year. And so it was just kind of like a big kind of like, what the hell are they doing? Especially with like, they're already in a pretty bad cap situation then. So it's just kind of surprising to see that, they would double down on a player who, hasn't shown that he's 4-year, whatever the contract was, worthy. So I think it's good for them that they reworked it, but it's just like the first step they're going to need to take in a long series of things. They're going to need to get back to what they used to be. What do you guys think?
Yeah, really. I mean, they're just in a desperate situation where, I mean, they can't get any free agents. They can't. I mean, all they can do is build through the draft, and they got to lose some terrible contracts. So
definitely an uphill battle.
It's kind of like a waiting game at this point.
Yeah, for sure. Brandon, you got any thoughts?
No, I mean, I don't know why they signed him to a 4-year, $150 million deal after he led the league in interceptions and the Raiders didn't make the playoffs. The Saints really saw that and was like, that's my guy.
That's him, right? That's the future. All right, let's move on. Oh, you were going to say something?
No, I mean, it's just hard to like fulfill Drew Brees' shoes in the city of New Orleans. So, it's tough for him, but hopefully they can bounce back.
Yeah, for sure.
Probably. Can I move on to the next one? I'm really excited about this.
Yeah, no, I was about to say it's an exciting topic.
It's the biggest news of the week. Everybody already seen it when the trailer dropped. EA Sports, college football, making a comeback. It's been 11 years. Lord.
Wow.
So they have to compensate the players. Obviously, that was the big deal why it went away. So if you opt in, a player receives $600 and they receive a copy of the game. But like I saw where they were talking about like paid partnerships with like some of the big names to opt in. So like Travis Hunter's already opted in. Jalen Milroe's already opted in, and they post it like on their Instagram, so they get paid a little bit more maybe for like promoting the game. But it's like you're like, say I'm a third team wide receiver or whatever.
Third string.
I'm taking the $600 and going to the bank.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, $600 is a lot. It probably is obviously less of an impact for guys like Jalen Milroe and stuff, but definitely a lot. Do you guys see Travis Hunter's tweet about on the cover about the cover? He said EA Sports, y'all know what to do, and then a couple hours later he deleted it. Do you guys think that might be something brewing? Do you think he might be the cover?
I hope not.
I think he might be.
I don't know why he would. I don't know what the cover would be.
Nick Saban.
Obviously, you would think it'd be like, I'm not just saying this like as a Michigan fan, but you would think it would be like either Nick Saban because of his retirement or like, the team that just won the Natty. I mean, I get it, like Colorado.
I think it needs to be a current player.
I mean, yeah, I think if you like put one player on there, I feel like that's like I mean, I guess it's different, but it's like more like favoritism, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And not that Colorado like doesn't have like, viewers, because now that they have Deion Sanders, like everyone's a Colorado fan. But I just think it shouldn't be him.
When was the last time in either Madden or the previous, series of EA back? I think 14 was the most recent one. That's what you said, Josh. I remember playing 14 like remastered. I think it was 14. But who was the last time there was more than like a player or a coach, or because there was like Madden or two players? Like when has it ever been a team? I mean, I understand like the whole like we should put the winner team, and I think that's kind of a cool concept. But at the same time.
Yeah, Madden had two players on the cover in 2020. I think it was with Brady and Mahomes.
Yeah.
But I can't think of another like when there was two players. Really, I saw one on Twitter. It was all the covers that should have been. So like from like Derrick Henry, Lamar Jackson, even maybe Caleb Williams from the year before last or last year.
Yeah.
I think that'd be pretty neat. I think it should be that, and then like or a Nick Saban one, to be honest. But I mean, I think it'll probably go with the current player.
I agree with that. I think the should have been covers would be super cool, like pay a homage to like the time off and like how anticipated the game was. And at the same time, I also think that like they should probably stick with the traditional cover athlete, because athlete singular cover athlete. But of who I think that would be, and I guess I mean athlete or like singular important person like a coach. I think the top three options are probably Caleb Williams, Travis Hunter, or Nick Saban. Not in that order though. I think maybe the Michigan like team. I mean, that's probably like in the odds there somewhere. I haven't looked at the spread or the live betting odds for the favorites and stuff like that. But that's kind of the three that I would expect. But yeah, what do you guys? Are you guys excited? You guys gonna buy the game right away?
Yeah, it's already in my wish list.
Nice. Yeah, I'm for sure getting that. I'm excited for when it comes out. It's supposed to be this summer, right?
Yeah.
Speaking of college football, let's move on to the college football playoff. The board of managers unanimously approved the 5+7 model for the new 12-team playoff format. So, obviously, with all the expansion, realignment, all that stuff going on, there's a lot of question about what's going to happen to the college football playoff, which is owned and operated by ESPN. Under guidelines with the NCAA and all that stuff. I'm pretty sure that's how it works. It's like it's like the ESPN College Football Playoff, which ESPN owns everything, which is a whole other thing. There's also been like a bunch of legal debates and jargon and all these like filings going on, specifically with FSU, the ACC, and all this conference realignment, and Fox and the Big Ten, and how the Big 12 and all that stuff is breaking up. And basically, the conferences are worried that this two super conferences, the Big Ten and the SEC, are worried that if they have such great teams, like more so than the Big 12 or the Pac-2 or what's left of that, they should get more than like one spot guaranteed for their conference in the college football playoff, which I think makes sense. I mean, if you have 20 teams full of people like teams like Georgia, Alabama, Tennessee, sure, sure, and stuff like that. If you have a big conference like the SEC or the Big Ten, then I feel like you should, I don't know, it's kind of do they deserve an extra slot guaranteed for the top two teams in that conference? I don't know. That's kind of up for debate. I know FSU with their whole deal, trying to leave the conference. I think their goal is to go to the Big Ten. There's a bunch of debate whether if they're qualified for academics and AAU accreditation and all the stuff that I've been reading up on recently. And I'm just kind of excited to see where the landscape goes. And also at the same time, I'm kind of worried because I feel like there might be some downsides to this. It might become too uncollege football like and too like business like. What do you guys think?
I think you're right. I was just gonna go back to what you were talking about with like Michigan, like the Big Ten, like having multiple teams. I mean, it is obviously the five champions of each division obviously get in, and then I think it's the next best people with like the record wise. So I mean, I guess they still could like have an opportunity to get in, but it is harder to get in when you have to play like 3 to 4 like actually good teams in a season.
Yeah.
So, I definitely think it will make the college football better. And I already saw that they talk about like going to 14 teams.
Yeah.
In 2026, I think
and
it was.
then 16 I saw even too, because and I have I sorry to interrupt you, but I on that topic I saw a tweet that said the ESPN and Big Ten are planning to make their own playoff, or not yet, the SEC and the Big Ten are planning to like have their own playoff exclusive to them, and then have like Fox and some just crazy stuff that's just unprecedented in sports. So yeah, keep going. I just want to add that in.
No, I mean, I was just gonna say, like, I don't know. Obviously, more teams the better. I mean, there's like 134 FBS college football teams. So I mean, obviously, like, it's hard for people to make it. But I just think like we shouldn't even talk about 14 teams until we actually see like what a 12-team playoff looks like. Because I mean, this is the first year they're doing it. So sure. That was just my thought. I think I've always said 12 teams. Or I think I said 8 when I was younger, just more than 4, because until FSU this year, you had to go undefeated in order to make the playoffs.
Yeah.
So it's like, now you can maybe have 1 to 2 losses, but I definitely think I think college football is definitely just skyrocketing forward, especially with NIL.
I also think there's a big question of like, I think of the 5, so there's the 5 conference championships, the highest ranked conference championships get the 5, and then the 7 are at large. And of those 5, there's Big Ten, there's SEC, ACC, Big 12, and are they counting the Pac-2 and what's left?
No,
left of it as
it's a Group 5 school.
Group of 5 school. Gotcha. Okay, that makes sense. Because I was going to say, I think that the whole, because the original like 5 or the 12-team model had the top 5 seeds of all the conferences, but obviously that had to be changed after everyone left the Pac-12 and there's only Washington State, Oregon State left. And I will just keep watch, by the way. There's a date, I think it's March 22nd, I'm pretty sure, is when a bunch more legal filings, it's like the deadline for stuff to happen. And I think a bunch of information is going to happen on that day in regards to the FSU ACC situation, which doesn't sound like a big, like if you're a school in middle of nowhere and you don't care about FSU or ACC and it doesn't really affect you, it actually does affect you, because what happens in that case is going to determine a lot of what's going to happen for the rest of the country in terms of like conference realignment, because that will set precedent, case law, for how things should go moving forward when people want to jump conferences to a better situation or scrambling. Like there's some teams that are like don't like the Oregon State, Washington State, for example, who are going to need to find new homes, or they're going to have to find stuff like that, and that legal precedent is going to mean a lot. So keep your eyes out for what happens on March 22nd this year. You guys want to move on, or do you have anything else to add, Josh or Brennan?
Yeah, no, I think we're good.
Cool. All right, who wants to talk about the salary cap, because that was a big thing?
I think Brandon's got it.
I guess I can. So the NFL announced today, actually on Friday, that the salary cap for the 2024 season will be a record $255.4 million per team, which is a 13.6% increase from last year's salary cap, and a sign that the league is entering a new phase of money. I think, obviously, the more money, the better, but I think at some point, obviously, like I guess they could keep steadily increasing it. But if you just like look at the MLB, it creates super teams when you don't have a salary cap. Because I mean, if you like look at the Dodgers, I mean they're paying Ohtani and the other Japanese pitcher over $1 billion combined. So I'm like, that's just insane. Like not having a salary cap just creates like super teams that are kind of unfair. And I think that obviously the NFL, I mean, it's great to increase it just because more people will be asking for money. Ever since the Browns and the Deshaun Watson trade, ever since that trade, it just shook the market, because, people perform better than Deshaun Watson, and, their agents will just say, well, he's getting this money, so my guy should get this. You know what I mean? So it's like,
yeah,
obviously they have to do something like that in order to keep players happy. So, I mean, more power to the league. But
I think sorry.
No, that was just my opinion.
Oh yeah, no, I agree. One thing I think is that maybe you'll see the impact of like the bigger salary cap, especially this offseason and maybe the next one. But I think after that, my guess is that because if you increase the amount of salary cap, you pay players more. So I think the average player contract is going to not skyrocket, but increase just as much as the salary. And I think that's just the pattern you're going to see. As much as they increase the salary cap, like the sizes of the contracts, right, especially the big players, like guys like, I hate to be biased, but I was going to talk about the Vikings situation with Justin Jefferson, Kirk Cousins, and stuff like that, where they need that extra space. Like this is going to be a huge help to them for them in trying to secure those contract details. But you have to realize that like in a couple of years, it's the norm of the payments increases every year for the top paid players. Like they set new records, new markets, new market standards, and I think it's important to note that while the salary cap will increase, so will the player contracts, and then we'll just be back to square one. And the only thing that will be different is the number will be bigger. Teams will still have to prioritize stuff. It'll just be at a larger scale. You got anything to add, Josh?
No, I think y'all hit it right on the head. I mean, I like what Brandon said about the super teams thing. Like if you don't put a salary cap on it, but like at the same time, like baseball gets away with it because like I feel like baseball it's not luck, but it's more like who's hitting good that day and things like that. While yes, you get better skilled players, I just feel like
they're not as consistent.
Yeah, anyone can win. I get what you're saying.
Right.
Yeah.
In football, I mean, let's put Michael Parsons, Nick Bosa, Joey Bosa all together on defense. Myles Garrett. I mean, if you don't have a salary cap, but I mean, who's going to pay that much for all that? I don't know. I obviously wouldn't spend my billions of dollars on that. But, I mean, I'm not Jerry Jones, I guess. So, I don't know.
And at the end of the day, I feel like people take salary cap and think it's a huge deal, especially with your key players, your franchise cornerstones. But at the end of the day, most championship teams, if not all, I think it's like a requirement, basically. It's a soft requirement for championship teams to have a period where they draft really well and are able to have high skill, high level talent that develops super fast for just their rookie contract or their undrafted free agent contract level. If you look at all the teams in the past that have won championships, they're all good with money. Whether it's, signing old players to cheaper contracts or signing unproven players to cheaper contracts, but have those players perform. So it comes down to scouting and your distribution of money, I think, is a big thing. Yeah. But if you guys don't mind, I have a feels good story of the week I'd like to share just really quickly. Jason Kelce, Eagles center, talked about retiring. I think he announced he was, but then kind of said he wish he didn't, but I'm pretty sure he's going to still stay retired, probably, most likely. Do you guys know anything about that? Because I forgot. I forgot what the latest is on that.
I don't think he said anything yet. I think he just said he wish he didn't say that he was going to retire. So
okay.
I don't know what's going to go on about all that, really.
Who knows? But I think most people think he's going to retire and because obviously that's what he announced. So until he says anything, he's retired. But anyway, more importantly, he recently participated in a 5K marathon for a charitable organization, Mike's Run for Autism, which raises money for like adults who have autism and also like the families of children who have autism. So great cause. And I think it's awesome that he's doing this with all the, I think part of I think he is a person who would have done it regardless, but I think it's especially important that he's doing it now with all the attention that's on like the Kelce name with Taylor Swift and regardless what you think of it, I think it's definitely a good, like, he's taking advantage of all the optics and doing something good with it. So no matter your opinions of Taylor Swift, Travis Kelce, or the Eagles or the Chiefs or whatever, I think it's something we can agree on that it's cool that he's using that that spotlight for something that's good. And so he ran a 5K. He looked absolutely gassed after I saw the video. He looked like he had just run 300 miles. But again, he is a big guy, and he's been drinking and eating now because he's not, in season. He's probably not going to play again. So I think it's really cool. So they've raised like tens of millions of dollars. So shout out to the Eagles Autism Foundation and the Mike's Run for Autism and all that stuff for raising all that money for a good cause. I think it's pretty cool. Next up, we got a revival. Josh, you want to introduce what we're doing today?
Well, last season of the Courtroom, which is what we're about to embark on season 2 here. I was so dominant in season 1. The jury and the higher ups were like, we got to make this guy a judge. He knows what he's talking about, and we want him making decisions and get Coleman out of there. So this season of the Courtroom, I'm going to be taking over. Judge Josh is he's gonna be the guy this year, and y'all are gonna have to persuade me.
Who won? Who had the most? Did we ever mark that down? I think who was like winning?
Sure it's on the Google Doc somewhere.
I'm scrolling on our document here. I'm trying to find. I'm pretty sure
it was Josh.
I think it was Josh. I
don't remember us finalizing the judge. I thought season 2 was more of we switch it up to see. The topic because some of us, sometimes we have, like last year, we had the same opinion on some topics. Sure. So one person would choose a side. So this year we decided.
Well, at least the season premiere is going to be me. Okay, buddy?
Well, you're just, I just got to put you in your place, man.
I'm the premiere star, dude. You know how shows bring in stars for the premiere? I'm that guy.
Oh, he's that guy.
We must have a low budget then.
We do have a low budget. We can kind of trial this kind of like how we did the season trial of our picking games last season. Again, we'll talk about it later, but we're in our second season of picking games, and we kind of treated the first season as a trial. We could kind of treat the first season of the Courtroom as a trial, and we're kind of revitalizing it now. So we can keep track of who's the winner, who's the loser. And today I will be going up against Brandon for who's the best 3-point or shooting, not just 3-point, shooting big man of all time. And I am actually yet to hear. I think Brennan knows who I'm going to pick. Everyone knows who I'm going to pick. I'm a Timberwolves fan, but I think I'm not actually aware of who Brennan's going to pick. I suspect it's going to be a guy I have in mind, but we'll see. So you guys want to start the Courtroom?
Yeah, stop yapping and get in my courtroom, buddy.
My bad. You're yes, sir. Honorable Judge Sykes.
Okay, so all rise. Judge Sykes has entered the room. You may be seated. So today, like Coleman talked about earlier, we're going to talk about the best shooting big man of all time in NBA history, all 76 years of it.
Ooh.
That's a long time. So a lot of good choices here. A lot of good choices. I think Coleman has alluded to his choice already. So we'll let Coleman open statements here since we kind of know where he's leaning. Kind of build some suspense for Brandon. So Coleman, go ahead. Your opening statement. Keep it short, concise. I don't know if you know how to do that, but
I don't.
You do it, buddy.
I don't. I'll try my best though. My opening statements are, first of all, ladies and gentlemen of the courtroom, I'd like to first off thank Honorable Judge Josh and my less honorable opponent on the opposing stand, Brandon, for coming together on this lovely afternoon. And I'll just talk and get started with what I want to say. So when it comes to like shooting in the NBA, who do you guys think of? That's my first point. Who do you guys think of? Steph Curry, Ray Allen, Damian Lillard, maybe even Killian Hayes. And what do all those guys have in common? They're all under 6'5". I think that's a big quality of the shooters we think of as the best in our league's history. Our leagues. I'm not in the league, but you know what I mean. They're all short guys like Curry, 6'2", guys who just sit in the corner or have some, maybe they might be an outlier and be able to run around the court and create opportunities, but that's like few and far between. So for the most part, shooters generally are shorter individuals, and Karl Anthony Towns, hailing from the University of Kentucky, Josh, is not the only best. He's not only the best shooting big man of all time, but he's also he is so by a pretty wide margin, in my opinion. And that's my opening statement.
Hey, I'm gonna be honest. That was a shorter opening statement than I thought it would be. I love the bias here. You're trying to play towards my biases.
You got to do what you got to do, man.
You did your research on the judge. I respect it. You kind of know what I'm looking for here. But I think Brandon does too. So I'm gonna let Brandon give his opening statement. Try to be concise, Brandon, and then we'll get into it.
Yeah, man. So the guy I'm here to argue as the best big man shooter of all time, he's a 7-foot power forward / center. He hails from the lands of Germany. And he played his whole career, all seasons with the Dallas Mavericks. He's a 14-time NBA All-Star, NBA MVP, so best player in the league, and led the Mavericks to a championship in 2011 against the LeBron Heat, who some would say LeBron was in his prime at that time, and he earned Finals MVP. So that's just going to be my little thing, keep it short, just like Coleman's, and that's what I got for you right now, just a little teaser.
Good job, Brandon. I love the conciseness here. Great job from both of y'all doing that. But my question to Brandon is, you kind of leaned into the accolades of good playing. Good, he's a good team player. He was a great player in the NBA. He won championships, did this, that. But you didn't really talk about shooting, which is kind of what it's all about. I would love to hear. Hold on, yeah. I would love to hear that later on your argument. So I'm gonna let y'all get y'all statements together. I guess we'll go back to Coleman, and I guess we'll just kind of ramble off here. What you thinking? Stats. Give me some stats on them.
Sure. I'd love to. So while the numbers suggest that the margin may be closer than I'm suggesting, if you look up like Dirk versus Cat all-time 3-point percentage, and by the way, I was so ecstatic when I heard that you picked Dirk. First of all, I don't really know who else you could pick. I mean, you could try to make an argument and say KD's a big man. He's a big man, but he's not in that really, dude, you know what I mean? You're not trying to say he just doesn't fit the category. He's not like a big man shooter. He's KD. He's in a league of his own. But back to the main thing. My main argument is basically it centers around the volume that Cat shoots at. Over his career so far, Cat, I think he shot 4.3 3-point attempts per game at a 40% clip, and he makes 1.7 per game if you do the math there. Dirk shot an entire 3-point attempt less than Cat over his career, and still shot at a lower rate and 3-ball percentage, which is the same thing over his career. So with less volume, he shot less of a percentage. And it's much harder to maintain a high 3-point percentage when you increase your volume. And you can see how Cat defies that general rule with his career statistics. So that's like one main point I want to center on. Usually when a guy, shoots more threes, doesn't mean he's either gonna stay consistent or go down. That's a general rule. And when you go outside your comfort zone. And Cat has continuously showed time and time again he'll let it fly many times a game, above average for a guy who's known to shoot it as much as he is, and he'll make it at an increasing percent. So I think it's important to note that when Dirk turns up the heat, he makes a less percentage. That's my first argument.
Okay. I like to see where you're coming from. Brandon, do you have anything to argue that, or any points you want to make?
I mean, I did, man. Like you said, I didn't talk about the shooting at the beginning because it kind of speaks for himself. Coleman he's giving y'all stats, right? But some would say the stats are skewed because obviously Dirk has played longer in his career. So obviously his shooting percentages numbers would go down as his age went up. So, as Coleman was talking, I was trying to do the math. He left me a little short here. But I did figure out that I'm comparing 9 years because Cat has so far played 9 years. So I'm just doing shooting percentage from 9 years. I mean, obviously, all time, he averages 3.4 3-point attempts a game and 1.3 makes a game. So, I mean,
no,
it's not bad. That's
are you talking about Dirk?
Yeah. Well, I'm not talking about your side.
Sorry, Judge. I'm out of line. I'm out of line.
So I was calculating how many 3-point attempts he had in the first 9 years. It was 3.5. So obviously, he shoots that thing. He shoots about a 40% or 42% from three, and he is 7 feet tall.
Objection.
Okay, please.
Where is that number coming from?
This number is coming from basketballreference.com/player/Nowitzki01.html.
His overall 3-point percentage is what?
In the 9 years, he's talking about
okay.
the 9 year
Just
stretch.
to clarify. Okay.
Thank you. You may continue, Brandon.
Thanks, Goat. That's what I have.
Hold on, stop. The glazing is crazy.
Yeah, that's insane.
But anyway, through his career, I mean, he shot a 38.3% 3-point for all the years he played, which I believe was, if I'm looking at this right here, he played for a whopping 20 years. So, I mean, we're talking about a guy who's got longevity. Obviously not as long as LeBron, but, he's got, pretty good, to be able to stay healthy and, constantly shoot that thing. And, shots aren't all about threes. Everyone knows Dirk for his iconic fade. As you know, it's outside of the Dallas Mavericks stadium. You could see I guess you would call it a statue of his fade. Just like Kobe Bryant got a statue. But yeah, as of right now, that's what I've got for you. Obviously I have more, but we'll just keep shooting back and forth between me and Coleman. So,
Judge, can I go, please? Can I counter argument to that?
Just real quick, I'm just what I'm thinking right now. What y'all can try to persuade me on. The game's changed, as we all know. Mm-hmm. So kind of the attempts have kind of been skewed for Karl Anthony. As the game has changed, that's the way I'm thinking right now. Dirk, he's kind of a generation ahead of himself. Shooting the three as a big. So the way I take it as the greatest shooter of all time, I still think Larry Bird's in the top 3 conversation. Steph is up there for sure. He changed the game. But Larry Bird is still a great shooter because he did it in a time nobody was shooting. That's the way I think of Dirk. He changed the game. Just go ahead. You make your argument now.
I have one thing. I'll respond to that first, and then I have another couple things to say. Dirk and I understand the declining output. I really do. But Dirk retired in the 18 to 19 season. Cat had been already playing for 5 years. They overlapped a fair amount. So to say that they had different eras, sure, you could say that. For the start of Dirk's career, for sure, like it was not as and the NBA changed their rules on fouls and all that stuff to have the points per game increase and all these things to make the game more exciting because views were declining and all this stuff. So I understand that 100%. But in the same argument or in the same prompt, Josh, honorable judge, that's like 3 points deducted there, isn't it? You also mentioned that Larry Bird was a so how many defining shooters can we have to get to the point? I mean, would you say that were there any like generational era defining game changing shooters in between Larry Bird and Dirk? I don't know. I mean, sure, you could think of like a guy like Reggie Miller and stuff like that. And But
Judge, I'd like to hearsay. Like, where's he going with this, Judge?
let me get to it.
Get to the point.
What I'm saying is that I don't think you can say that Dirk revolutionized the game and emphasize that as much, while in the same breath saying that Larry Bird also was a big game changer. Sure, they're both, but how much really did Dirk? How much more did Dirk really change the game? That's basically what I'm saying.
My question to you is, Coleman, can you name me another big man before Dirk that you'd put in the conversation of greatest big man shooter of all time?
You can consider Larry Bird a big man.
I consider him more of like how we consider Kevin Durant.
Kevin Durant's like much taller.
I know, exactly. Thank you. I mean,
yeah, I know, but I'm saying he's so how would you consider him in the same?
Man.
I know, but how could you consider him in like the same? What about Kevin Love? Or are you talking about in between the time?
In between, give me something before Dirk.
I mean,
I'll let you think about it, and I'll let Brandon make.
Antoine Walker when he was on the Celtics shot a pretty good clip.
Brandon, you can go ahead and make a point. Coleman, you can just think about that.
Wait, I had another thing to say, Your Honor.
Okay, go ahead.
When Brandon was making his argument, his first main argument, other than his introduction, he mentioned how Dirk had all these statues and stuff, he spent more than half the time he spent talking in that segment, talking about how Dirk had a statue and had all those accolades. How are you holding Cat accountable or holding it against him that he's played less? How can you possibly do that? Is that his fault? Should he have been born earlier? Should he have attended the University of Kentucky Wildcats earlier?
I get that point. Like, that's why I'm trying to just get my stats from the 9 years, just so I can compare, what's best for both of us. I mean, I was just talking about that. But I mean, I get what you're saying. I'm trying to do my best. I'm just looking at all of Dirk's great numbers throughout his career, and I'm cutting it off at his 9th season. But I mean, if you really want me to get into it, I mean, he was a 6-time All-Star to Cat's 4 in his 9 years. But I mean, I don't want to get into that. He also won an MVP. But
I do want to get into it. Is that okay, Your Honor?
I'm looking at some stats of my own. Karl Anthony Towns, 963 pointers made in his career so far. So in the 9 years Brandon's talking about. So if we double that, he still would not get to Dirk's 1982.
Sure.
So just throwing that out there. But you go ahead and get into it, Coleman.
Okay, sure. I want to break down another point I have, and that is who are on these teams. You break down the first 9 years. Would you say, just a question to the court, and anyone feel free to answer, would you guys say that Dirk supporting cast or the Minnesota Timberwolves early 2010s supporting cast is better in terms of Dirk's teammates versus Cat's teammates? Whose teammates were better?
I'll give it to you. The Dallas was definitely better.
Okay, and another point I just want to reiterate, because this is a hard argument to make. Like,
you could argue. I mean,
hey,
Judge.
This is my courtroom, and you will be silent, Brandon, while Coleman is talking.
Wow, thank you, Your Honor, for the respect in the courtroom. I was actually going to give a point to help you, Brandon, and acknowledge that for these guys, I mean, I wouldn't say most, but a large portion of their threes are just pull-up threes where the motion of the offense had no play or no role, whatever. But you have to think of who's assisting and running the offense when these players are on the court. Dirk had guys like Terry, Jason Kidd, Devin Harris, JJ Barea, Michael Finley, who helped organize Dallas offense. And those guys were players who, a lot of them played for the majority of, not majority, because Dirk played for 21 years, second player ever to play that long. But they played for a long portion of his tenure in Dallas. And Cat has had absolutely no one on the Wolves that has played nearly that long, up until 2, 3, 4 years ago. He's also had to play under 5 head coaches, where Dirk only had to play with 3, and one of them was Rick Carlisle, which is a Hall of Fame coach, and they got the ring in 11. So they have a Hall of Fame ring-winning coach who is able to lead them, whereas the Minnesota Timberwolves are probably one of the least desirable, well, maybe not now, but we're the least desirable team to have a coach play there. Don't attract all the talent, less people to assist, less people to have all this. Basically, the supporting cast was terrible and they lose more games. That's all I'm saying. I think that plays a role.
Right, and I'd like to...
Hold on. Well, I'm going to be honest with you, Coleman. You helped and hurt your case there. I like the point where you made out the point guards getting the ball, assisting, get the offense flowing. I like that. I like the fact that you showed that Karl Anthony Towns didn't have that. But I want to make I guess I'll let Brandon make his point, and then if Brandon doesn't make the point, I'll point it out where you can argue it. So go ahead, Brandon.
I mean, I was just gonna say, you can't blame Dirk for Dallas building a team around him. I mean, obviously, Dirk did have great point guards, but what you do mean is Dirk had, good players on his team. So, I mean, Dirk's shooting at a high clip with good players on his team, whereas Cat, I would say that Minnesota wasn't bad. They just didn't have good general managing. I mean, y'all had Jimmy Butler at the point. He just didn't want to be there. Y'all trade away Zach LaVine. I mean, this Coleman's getting mad. I mean, I'm just naming people. I mean, y'all had Kevin Garnett, for a little bit. But I'm just saying, Dirk, he was just drafted there. He stayed there, loyal guy, like Kobe Bryant. And you can't blame him for having, and you said winning coach, like with the ring. I mean, of course, Dirk was on that team when he won. So, I mean, he wasn't a winning coach with the ring before. I don't believe. Sure. I don't know my stats.
No, you're
right. He won it with the team.
Yeah, you're right.
And, Dirk, before, Curry was in the league, obviously, and, Larry Bird, like Josh did say, like, no one was really shooting threes. Now everyone shoots a three and they're like Curry,
Sure.
So, I mean.
Objection, Your Honor?
Yes.
To an earlier point, Jimmy Butler played like half a season for the Timberwolves. Does that really count? And I think Cat was injured for half of the season. So there's that.
He was technically on the team. So I mean, I would have to go back and look at the stats. There was there was nothing given to me beforehand to kind of look at. So I'm kind of just going off my own research. So
as Coleman was just like, I guess you would say, arguing against all my statements back there about, Jimmy Butler not playing long enough. So I'm just going to say this. I mean, Cat also, he's had some injury-prone seasons here that I'm looking at. So, his numbers could be skewed higher. I mean, I'm looking here, first 3 seasons, played all 82 games. Then, obviously, 77, COVID year, 35. So, I mean, it's not his fault they had COVID, but it does boost his numbers for not playing as many games.
How? Objection, how?
Because
the percentages will be skewed.
He's never would be way higher because he's not taking as many shots.
Objection. That is in his entire
career.
He could literally
what? I can't even make an objection in court.
Thank you. So like I said,
doesn't make any sense.
No, it does make sense. Can I explain my?
All right, try to make a point quick.
Okay, my point is that in all evidence points to Cat never having a problem, or his percentage is never over his career. He's increased the amount of 3-point shots he's attempted slightly, but still, it's never gone down. In fact, his percentage has gone up. So it's never been an indication that just slightly more, maybe like 20 more games in a season would do anything. There's no indication of that. And if anything, the injuries would play more of a factor in that he's the best shooter because he's gone almost an entire season last year and then a couple of years and then the COVID year of having breaks in between, and he still maintained the clip that he shot at. Would Dirk be able to do that in his I don't know, probably not. I don't know.
That's speculation. That's not going to be allowed in my courtroom.
No, but you're speculating on that Cat. It would have. You can't do that. That's the same thing.
It's not speculation. It's stats.
He played less games, so his numbers would be, his percentages would most likely be lower. But I understand what you're saying. Though.
I'll argue that later.
What you're saying. Well, I mean, you have a closing argument, so
sure, yeah, exactly. I'll argue with that.
All right, Brandon, go ahead, finish your point.
Obviously, I could just look here, 2023. I'm pretty sure it's an 82-game season. He only played 29 games. I'm just, obviously he doesn't have that health like Dirk had, which doesn't really affect your shooting, but it does help your numbers look a little prettier. But no, we can go ahead and move on to the closing arguments, Judge. I'm ready.
So now we're just gonna head on to our closing arguments. One last time you get to kind of persuade me and the jury, which is also me, about our decision. We'll deliberate and then we'll come back to you after your closing statements. So try to make it a little concise, but don't hold back here. You got everything you got because it's kind of up in there right now. If I'm gonna be honest with y'all.
Okay.
Go ahead, Brandon.
Oh, I start the closing.
I meant Coleman. I'm sorry. Go ahead. I'm sorry, Coleman.
Okay. Overall, at the end of the day, when you look at the best shooters in the NBA, I think it's important to understand the eras. So at the end of the day, I understand that Dirk came from a different time and revolutionized the ball. With that, or revolutionized the game and shooting 3-ball. With that in mind, the numbers speak in every category except for a minor discrepancy in the free throw percentage. That Cat, over his career, has not only shot at a higher volume, but has knocked down a higher rate of of 3-pointers and mid-range shots by a good portion, actually. And then, so on top of that, all the arguments presented, the counter arguments presented about how he didn't have the best the first 9 years of his career. I think that has to do with a poverty program, that being the Minnesota Timberwolves, poverty management, which, I mean, same thing, and also poverty teammates, which all kind of tie together. And through this, Cat was able to win Rookie of the Year. He was able to win a 3-point shooting contest. And I don't see that in Dirk's resume. So at the end of the day, I believe that Cat is a better shooter, not only just based on statistics, but based on aura, the way he's confident in himself, and also the way that he's the best shooter of all time as a big man in the NBA. Thank you.
All right, that's Big Purr's argument.
Yep.
I mean, Brandon, you want to go ahead and do yours?
Big Purr. Oh, is it my turn?
Yeah, it's your turn, Brandon.
Okay. I get what Coleman's saying. I mean, obviously, Cat's a good guy, but with good shooting becomes, you leave a legacy. And like Curry's left a legacy, Larry Bird, Michael Jordan, obviously different legacies, but Dirk left a legacy on the game with his, iconic one-legged fader. I don't see many kids pulling up a jumper these days and being like, Big Purr, I'm just, you hit a fader.
Do they do it for Dirk? What?
Bro, I'm pretty sure.
I've seen people do Dirk.
Yeah, people hit a one-legged fader. It's iconic. It's Dirk's move. Dirk also, I know we've just been talking about threes because that's what the league is associated with these days with shooting. The mid has kind of died. But I mean, Dirk was lethal from the mid-range, shooting about almost 50% from the mid-range throughout his career. And as a big man, I just want you to know this. Dirk, there's only 8 players in the league that have ever done this. And I don't really see Karl Anthony Towns on this list, but Dirk had a 50, 40, and 90 season. So that's 90% from the free throw, 40% from the three, and 50% from the mid-range.
Cat's about to have a 50, 40, 90, and I don't know when Dirk's happened. But he's about to have one. I suspect Cat will have many more. Again, that's speculation, but he's well on pace, and I think he's on a better pace than Dirk was.
Dirk had his in the year 2005 to 2006, which would have been his 8th season. So
around
Cat's 8th season would have been last year. So clearly it didn't happen. I mean, I could talk about all NBAs, but that really doesn't matter about shooting. Cat, don't get me wrong, Cat's a great player from Kentucky, but Dirk, it's just the overseas guys are different and they're ruining the NBA these days. And I'm just gonna say, if Cat doesn't win an MVP this year, he just looking at the first 9 years, he doesn't really match up to Dirk. And Cat still has, I'll give him, 9, 10, 11, 12. If Cat doesn't win a ring in his 13th year, I mean, bum. And beat Prime LeBron. I mean, who else is beating Prime LeBron with the flu? He's getting made fun of. Dirk, and it's Dirk, Jason Kidd. I don't really know their team, but I knew it was LeBron, D Wade, Chris Bosh. Who's beating them? And you also had to beat Kobe later down in his career. Obviously, Kobe, great one, R.I.P. Mamba. But that's all I got to say, really.
I'm struggling to see where that has anything to do with the shooting.
Just Judge, please keep quiet.
That's unrelated.
Yeah, it's actually not your turn, Coleman. Let him finish
unrelated.
His argument. It's his argument, though.
You're fluffing it up.
Argument. I'm making it look pretty because Dirk's a pretty guy. Look at me.
What?
Final statement here.
What? Hold on.
Obviously, 50, 40, 90 club. Cat's never touched that. Dirk has a statue outside of the Mavs arena hitting his iconic Dirk fader, one-legged, which really changed the game. People don't do it these days. And Dirk's a legend in Dallas, whereas Cat is just Big Purr. So.
All right, that's enough from the courtroom. I think I've got enough information to make my decision. I'm gonna go into deliberate. I'm gonna go into a little bit of deliberation with myself a minute, and then we'll get back to y'all. All right, guys, I'm back. I made a decision. This is a grueling decision. I don't like being put in this situation. I don't know what the higher ups are thinking. Putting me in a situation I have to choose between 2 of my best friends. And they make great arguments, both of them. Great arguments. Can't lie with it. Coleman, I like the way that you presented Big Purr. I think he's a great young player. I think he has the best potential to become the best big man in his era. Be a part of that list of one of the greats if he can if he can make that next step. I think he's a great shooter. Obviously, he was just won the 3-point contest, and then he was in another one this year. He did cheat though. I mean, he was on the line, foot on the line. And then to Brandon's point, Dirk, legendary player, part of the, what was it, the 40, 50, 90 club?
50-40.
Or 50, 40, 90 club.
90.
That's a great stat to have. You kind of just pulled that out of nowhere. But congratulations to that. Dirk has a great legacy. He trying to change the game for a big man. I don't think Coleman ever answered my question on a big man that could shoot before Dirk.
I did multiple times.
Who?
What?
Who was the big man?
I said Antoine Walker, Rasheed Wallace.
Antoine Walker.
Antoine
Rasheed
Walker
Wallace was not a shooter.
Yes, he was.
No, it was not.
Yes, he was.
It'd be nice if I could spell his name. Rasheed Wallace. Let's see. No, he's part of the bad boy Pistons. I mean, he was just
He's top 5 in 3 points made.
I don't see him as a shooter. I don't think anybody's ever seen him as a shooter. Hold on. He's made his 3-point percentage of his career is 33.6%. That's not terrible though, honestly.
He's top 5 in makes too.
That's kind of surprising. I mean, that sounds like a great pick, but honestly, that was actually really good. It really just comes down to not just legacy, but it's more like I couldn't. I mean, if you would have told me Rasheed Wallace was that good at 3-point shooting, I would have not believed you. So I think
you're still stuck on that.
I am. I really am. That's kind of crazy to me. But anyway, I feel like Dirk kind of changed the game.
Right, bro. Just say it, bro. I don't want to hear all this garbage, bro.
But I think Cat has a real shot if he does what he should do in the next 9 years and he can stay healthy to take the title from Dirk. But Dirk is the best big man shooter of all time. I don't think right now you can make you made the greatest argument you could for Cat. But I think
I left a lot on the table actually, but whatever.
I mean, I did too. I didn't even talk about Dirk's clutch shooting ability, but I mean, I didn't want to go down that road. It's just not fair.
Yeah, but kudos to Brandon for finally winning a courtroom. Of course, I was not involved in this one.
Of course you were. You literally made him win because you chose the winner. Of course you were involved. It's definitely a conflict of interest.
I wasn't involved in arguing because.
No, you were, but you were involved in picking the wrong winner.
See, now this is a sore loser. This is
I am a sore loser.
Vikings and Minnesota Timberwolves fan at its finest.
It's coming out, man. Unbelievable.
They win a playoff. Hey, chill out. They win a play-in game and they think it's the Super Bowl, and they have a parade the next day. It's kind of sad to see. I mean, I think you both made great points. I think Brandon was a little bit stronger with Dirk. I mean, he honestly, in my opinion, coming into it, I think Dirk was the better shooter. Like I said, though, I think Cat has a argument and a few years ahead of him to change my mind. So
yeah, I agree. It's hard to argue. Brandon, you had a great argument. Josh, you really did nothing. GG's, man. I would say that literally every stat he beats him in. So that's kind of hard. Like, how do you what could I have done? Is there anything you could have done?
Well, I mean, you kind of did pick Cat first. So that's not.
I did because I mean, he has better numbers all around.
I don't know about that. But okay. Well, Brandon kind of disproved that in the 9 seasons, but that's okay.
Well, let's move on to something that Coleman did beat me in, and that was our picks last week.
Good transition.
Last week, as y'all know,
W transition, Brandon. I liked it.
Thank you. As y'all know, we do pick games every week. Last week, Josh went 6-4. I went 5-5. Kind of a bad week for all of us. Coleman went 6-4. Also, him and Josh tied. Which a little speculation. I think they're picking the same games to try to beat me. But hey,
no, hold on. I should have. I picked Florida State as an upset. I should have probably picked Duke. That's one of mine. And no, we did not pick the same games. I picked UConn. He picked. He did pick UConn. I picked Kentucky. He picked Auburn.
I just messing around.
I picked BYU.
Yeah.
But I did say. I'm just gonna say this. I did say UConn would get upset. I just didn't know which game it was. I got it wrong.
I picked 4 different from I picked more similar to you, I think, actually.
I'm just messing around, dude.
Oh, okay,
It's a joke.
My bad.
Okay. Our running total, though, Josh, is 33 and 27 with 55%. Not bad. Me and Coleman are both tied, 35 and 25 with 58.3%. So, as of right now, Josh is only 2 games behind. It's a pretty tight race this time around, and let's just move on to week 7.
Yeah,
I guess I'll start us off, or Josh, you start us off.
Yeah, I'll start us off. So tonight, Friday night, the Cavs at 76ers. We all picked the Cavs. I think we all know why. Joel Embiid's not playing. The Cavs, I think, have a little bit more to play for at the moment. So I think they kind of pull out the W there. Bucks at Wolves. We all picked the Wolves. Surprisingly, Coleman went with his team this time. I think they're trying to hold on to that number 1 seed. Bucks with Doc Rivers not doing the greatest. So we'll see how that goes. Moving on to Saturday, number 2 Houston at number 11 Baylor. Baylor coming off that loss to BYU. Houston coming off a good week again.
Wait, who picked that BYU upset?
You did, buddy. Okay, good job. Anyway, so we all picked Houston. Obviously, I think they're one of the better. They're obviously older, more mature, best defensive teams in the nation. Baylor, young, coming off that loss. Can't defend the ball very well. I think it allows Houston guards to do what they need to do to score, and then I think they shut them down the defensive end. And then the game of Saturday, I feel like, would be number 13 Alabama escaping at home against Florida, coming off that win in overtime at Rupp Arena. Number 17 Kentucky will not be ranked 17th unless they win this game. They coming off a loss to LSU. Rob Dillingham, greatest freshman of all time, putting that in. So me and actually, holy crap, Brandon picked with me on this one. I love you, Brandon. So me and him picked Kentucky. Coleman again goes against his team. Bandwagon fan, fair weather fan. He picks Alabama. Coleman, why'd you pick Alabama?
I think Alabama's just a better team overall, and not only that, I think they're better built for March. They're going to make a deeper run in March, and they're the better team in SEC play. They're just better overall, and they might not have as good freshmen, but I do think that their coach has been coaching better. I think we can agree to that.
Yeah, I think that was the best point you made all day. The pick though, worse than your Karl Anthony Towns pick. Go Cats. Sunday.
So you said go Cat? Go Cat?
No, go Cats. I think you misunderstood me, buddy.
So you wish there were more than just one cat?
No.
Okay, keep going.
I think Lakers at the Suns. We all go Suns here. All Laker haters, I think. I mean, I'm gonna be honest with y'all. I used to be a Lakers fan just because of
dude, you're the biggest bandwagon of all time.
No. Like when I was like really, really young, like 5, 6, 7.
Patriots, dude, like everything. Biggest
okay,
bandwagon.
But now I'm obviously a Suns fan now because of Devin Booker, but I'm a Lakers hater now just because of LeBron. AD, I hope he gets traded out. I just hate it. So we all picked the Suns, obviously the best team in the West. Moving on, Mavs at Pacers. I go Pacers, y'all go Mavs. The reason I go Pacers is because they're coming off a great All-Star weekend at home. They're kind of been chilling together, playing together. They've been together all All-Star break. I think they come out and the hometown crowd's going to get behind them. You know, I think that's going to be a major factor there. And I think Luka's coming off like, you know, how championship teams come off their championship and they kind of go, they don't do too well in the start. I think Luka's going to have that kind of mid-year stretch where he kind of dulls down a little bit.
I completely disagree. He's been playing outstanding. They just beat your favorite Suns. And also at the same time, the Kyrie and Luka pairing is doing better than it ever has just right about now. So I think a lot of those things that you just said, I disagree with.
Well, I'm just saying, like, I think it's eventually going to hit, and I think this will be the start of it. So that's just my opinion.
There's really not any precedent for that.
Okay, dude. Keep going. We're picking games. I'm just telling you why I picked the game. All right, Kings at Clippers. I picked Kings. Y'all picked Clippers again against me. That's crazy. Kings, I think De'Aaron Fox wants to prove something this second half of the season. Clippers, they have been playing well, yes. But I think coming off All-Star break, I think it's hard on people. I don't think people understand that it's a little harder than you think. Even though you're rejuvenized, you've not been playing with these folks for a week or two now, and it's kind of messing with them. So I think the Clippers kind of hit a little speed bump here, but I feel like the Clippers are a better team, and I think they continue their winning ways later on. And then moving on to Monday, we have Heat at Kings, and then I think we all picked the Kings there. Miami's not been doing too good this year, kind of coming off a bad stretch in the All-Star break, and then I think they'll continue that bad stretch for a little bit here. Tuesday, we have number 25 BYU Cougars, Coleman's team, for obvious reasons, at number 9 Kansas.
Why is the obvious reasons? I don't understand. It's because they won me
yeah,
the game. Oh, okay.
Yeah, that, and then I think that they're like underdogs, and you kind of root for the underdog, you know.
Gotcha. Okay.
And then we all picked Kansas here. I was kind of leaning towards BYU, honestly, just because I don't believe in Kansas at all. I just don't believe. But I think at Allen Fieldhouse, I think Kansas pulls off the W. And then to round out the week for us, we have 76ers at Celtics.
Always a good game.
Always a good game. So we all picked the Celtics here. I don't think there's much to talk about there unless y'all want to talk about it.
Celtics are on fire, man. It's kind of unfair. I don't know how they got that team together, especially with how much they're paying Jaylen Brown.
Yeah.
I understand. But speaking of which, dunk contest, Jaylen Brown, come on, man.
Terrible, dude. Get him out of here.
Come on, man. We didn't really talk about that, but just I think that's the only thing that needs to be done. It was underwhelming overall.
Matt McClung got screwed over in the first round. That first dunk he had was the greatest dunk I've ever seen in my life.
Okay, well, that's crazy.
It's up there.
The East won, so Brandon got a point for that. So I don't know how the East won. And then another Anthony Edwards shot with his left hand in the skills challenge. He sold the bag. So I mean, it was a bunch of bad picks overall by all of us. Brandon, I think
Curry beat Sabrina. That's good.
How's that good? What's good about that?
I got Team Pacers, and I got.
Oh yeah, so Brandon definitely did better than at least me.
You know, y'all don't know why the East won, bro. They just love basketball more. They have more to play for.
Oh, they like
West
it.
Don't care about winning. Like you saw that picture. It was like
That's
look
so
at all
true,
these
though.
Hall of Famers, and then you show the East, and it's like look at these players they got to play this year. You know, the West didn't really care. It was the East. Like they're trying to prove a point.
Well, at the same time, who really does care though? It's the All-Star game in 2024.
I think that's the next topic we need to talk about in the courtroom. I think they either need to do away with All-Star Weekend entirely, or they need to revamp the game because it's god awful. I can't watch it.
Should we set it up next week? Next week, Brandon and I versus who has the better idea for what they should do with the All-Star Weekend?
Yeah, we'll figure something
I
out.
argue that the winner gets to go to the judge, but
Oh, should that be a thing? Should we just should that be a thing that we do? The winner gets to judge.
tune in next week to find out.
Thank you guys so much for listening to this week's episode. I want to thank everyone for coming out and listening to the whole thing all the way through. You guys are some real ones. And without further ado, I'm one of your co-hosts, Coleman Madlin. Jordan here.
Sykes.
And Brandon Harkey.
We're signing out.